You are welcome to yet another episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show, where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. You know, it's funny when we talk about justice in this country, we tend to dress it up with big words. Fairness, liberty, due process. The idea that no man is above the law, and just as importantly, no man should fall beneath it either. But what happens when the very system designed to protect those rights turns its back on its own rules? When the law stops being a shield for the innocent and becomes a weapon for the powerful. Then you get situations like the one we're about to unpack. This is the story of how the government, in its relentless mission to bring down Robert Sylvester Kelly, better known as R. Kelly, decided the rules didn't apply. Not the Constitution, not the statutes of limitations, not even common sense. And what's worse, the courts let them get away with it. I'm not here to argue your feelings about R. Kelly the celebrity. In fact, this isn't about liking him or defending his music. This is strictly about the law and about the Constitution. That sacred document they like to wave around when it's convenient for them and quietly ignore when it isn't. At the heart of this issue is a simple and unshakable principle. You cannot prosecute someone today using a law that didn't exist at the time they allegedly broke it. That's not a loophole. That's not a technicality. That's a cornerstone of justice. It's written plain as day in Article I, Section 9, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution, and it says, "No ex post facto law shall be passed." Translation? No retroactive laws. No changing the rules after the game is over. No moving the goalposts when you don't like the outcome. And yet that's exactly what happened here. In the year 2001, Congress passed an amendment extending the statutes of limitations for certain crimes. Now, whether you agree with that law or not isn't the point. The issue is timing. Because at the time the government says R. Kelly committed those alleged acts, that law didn't exist and the statutes of limitations were firmly in place. The clock had already run out. The window to bring charges had closed. But that didn't stop them. Instead of respecting the Constitution, which is the very foundation of our justice system, the government reached for that 2001 amendment, pretending it could apply to things that happened years before it was ever written. As if time travel was part of the legal process. Now think about that for a second. Imagine if Congress passed a new tax today and then demanded you pay it on transactions you made 10 to 20 years ago. You'd laugh them out of the room. It's absurd. It would never hold up in court and no one would stand for it. But when it came to R. Kelly, suddenly those rules didn't seem to matter. And here's where it gets worse. Because even in cases where no statute of limitations exists, like murder, retroactive criminal laws are still off limits. Even then, you can't pass a law today and decide it should cover actions from yesterday and throw someone in prison for it. The Constitution flat out forbids it. International law forbids it. Basic logic equally forbids it. Yet in R. Kelly's case, not only did prosecutors push this fantasy of retroactive justice, but the Chicago Appeal Court, the people tasked with guarding against this kind of abuse, rubber-stamped it. They let it slide. They let the government change the rules mid-game because, let's be honest, the mission wasn't justice anymore. It was conviction, and that should terrify you. Because if the government can throw out the rulebook for one man, it can do it to anyone, and the next victim can be you and I. And if courts won't stand in the way, then who's left to stop them? This isn't just about R. Kelly anymore. It's about every person who's ever relied on the promise that the law would treat them fairly, whether they're famous or forgotten. It's about a justice system that's supposed to be predictable, consistent, and grounded in law, not in emotions, not politics, and definitely not public pressure. And make no mistake, public pressure played a part in this. When headlines screamed, documentaries aired, and opinion pieces piled up, the powers that be saw an opportunity. An easy target and an opportunity for a high-profile conviction. And so they bent the rules. They ignored constitutional limitations. They retroactively applied a law that by every legal standard should never have touched those old allegations. And the courts, instead of calling foul, chose to look the other way. That should alarm every American citizen, because today it's R. Kelly and tomorrow it could be you. The law is supposed to be a steady hand in a storm, not a weapon you pick up when it suits you. The Founding Fathers knew this, and that's why they wrote those protections into the Constitution. They understood how dangerous governments could become when left unchecked, and here we are witnessing what they foresighted. And history time and again has shown us what happens when laws are rewritten in the heat of the moment, driven by politics and public outrage instead of principle. It's an old story and we're watching it happen again. But here's the part they won't tell you. Even if you strip away the celebrity, the controversy and the headlines, even if you set aside whether you like R. Kelly or not, which is certainly not important, what remains is this: a government broke the rules to put a man in prison. They knowingly violated the Constitution's prohibition on ex post facto laws, and a naive court allowed it. That's not justice. That's vengeance dressed up in a judge's robe. And if we let that slide, if we shrug it off because it happened to a celebrity we don't personally care for, then we are opening the door to a legal system where fairness is optional. Where your rights exist only when they're convenient for the state. That's not America. And certainly that's not a free society, because when laws can be twisted to target one man, they can be twisted to target anyone. So the question is, are we going to speak up? Are we going to hold the Department of Justice and the judiciary accountable for allowing this travesty? Or are we going to let them bury this case under layers of media noise and public distraction? Because make no mistake, this case isn't just about one man's freedom. It's about whether the Constitution still means what it says, or whether it's just a prop they pull out on special occasions. If justice matters, if fairness really matters, then we need to demand better, not just for R. Kelly. Not just for the famous, but for anyone who might one day find themselves standing alone against the full weight of a government willing to bend the law to make a wrongful conviction stick. That's the fight we should all care about, and if we let them get away with it here, it won't be the last time. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.